Hello and welcome to another episode of the Electric Norwegian. I'm Mats. Today we will do the winter range test of the Model 3. It's now just called the Model 3. It's really what we used to call the Model 3 Standard Range Plus. Standard model is just that's what it is. This has I think it's a 55 kilowatt hour LFP iron phosphate battery, so no cobalt in it. That's a big hooray. Mostly, except it does somewhat affect its cold weather capabilities. So the car is now charged to 97%. It's been preheated a little bit before I left, but not too much. The range test is around 150 kilometers. So it's 1 degree minus today, -1. So some might say, oh, it's not 30 degree minus. No, it's not. But let's face it, the world is not Finnmark. So most of Europe and so on, this will do nicely for a winter test. Thank you. Probably cover about 70-80% of winter anyway. Car estimates 303 kilometers of range on a running average of 170 watt-hours per kilometer. We'll see if this one does 300 kilometers today. That means that if we have around 50 kilometers when we arrive back at the destination, gone around, then it has the same range as my 2019 long range, because that averaged 300 as well when we did this test last winter. I don't remember the exact numbers and the cold and all that. It wasn't too cold that day either, so I think it should be somewhat similar. This has a heat pump after all. That's one of the reasons I bought it. In fact, it's the primary reason I bought it. So yes, let's see what's what. The battery is a bit cold. There might be some range in there that will be made available as it heats up. We will just have to wait and see. For the time being, the consumption numbers are 253. So that will of course fall as we get going. After all, we just started. It's a beautiful day, not very many clouds. And sunny. Well, the sun is about to set in an hour or so, probably. Welcome to winter. As you look at this wonderful old Model S here, I can say now that the consumption has fallen to 230 already, and the climate control is on. Of course, it's on. I'm just driving like I normally do. Climate is on 21 degrees. And yeah, going home from a friend yesterday, I noticed that the car sort of didn't manage to keep. I was afraid that something was broken, because there is some people that has had some issues with the heat pump and cold weather. Even now it's not particularly cold, it's around 1 or 2 minus, as I mentioned. And the car hasn't been able to heat up properly in the cabin. And yesterday I sort of had the same kind of experience, and then I turned the heat from 20 up to 21, 22, and it sort of fixed itself. So, but I've had that same experience in the old car as well. That's something about, I don't know if it's the placement of the heat sensor in the cabin or not, but sometimes it just sort of struggles to maintain an even temperature. But I'm very excited for this test, because I know how efficient heat pumps can be. I know they also have their limitations, of course. This is well within its working limits. It's dry roads, so that's a plus. It's cold but dry. But given the rather varied consumption numbers we had going home yesterday, well, yeah, let's just see how this goes. On another note, I can mention I've got Tidal in the car. For those of you who don't know what that is, Tidal is a streaming service that was first developed in Norway called WIP. Don't ask me why they chose that name. And then it was sold to JC, I think, and then he sold it to the founder of Twitter, which I just never got his name. Anyway, they're trying to do what the streaming service should have done years ago, to let more of your money, your payment, go to the artists you listen to, and you can choose your own favorite artists, so you can funnel more money to them. And they're trying to look at how this whole thing finance itself, for finance artists and so on. Very interesting. And also what Tidal has sort of built their reputation on is for the high fidelity market. All of the sound nerds and all of those who could spend $1 billion on a sound system. Yeah, and I must say that I think the sound out of the Tidal the sound system in the car sounds a lot better through Tidal than it does through Spotify. I'm sure there's a lot of reasons for that, and there's been a discussion going on that it's just confirmation bias, blah blah blah, and that's simply not true. Mostly because I have good ears and I've heard my set of good sound systems, and it just lets the sound system breathe better and breathe more and be more. And even in this base car, yes, there is no subwoofer, so there's a lot of, you don't get the low lows. But apart from that, the rest of the sound system in this car is truly brilliant, and particularly now when you get some high quality going through it, it's really, really nice, I must say. Well done. And given that I pay for Tidal, I'm thankful to finally get on the playlist about. There's nothing wrong with Spotify, and I'm very glad that, as I mentioned before, they have all these things integrated, and that you can use voice control to call up anything you need. Fabulous, very addictive. But now I can use Spotify for all my podcasts, and then I can use Tidal for all the music. Wonderful. So, yes, back to the test. Average consumption, and back to the test. Consumption is now 198 watt hours, so it's fallen under 200 already. The energy graph says 282 kilometers and 177. That's good. Better than a lot of other cars out there, after all. You only just started. That's the best bit. We've been on the road now for about 25 minutes. Just got a cup of hot coffee. It's 4 minus now, so it's getting rather cold outside. I just set off again, so we have a consumption of almost 450. But the rolling average of the last 50 kilometers is 168. And it estimates now 277, 276 kilometers. And we've driven around 30 kilometers. So that's the fun thing about electric cars. You set off and you think, okay, we're gonna get to X. And then as you drive, your consumption numbers fall, so your range effectively increases. So it's brilliant, really. I love this car. It's about the optimal. It could have been a bit lighter without the LFP batteries, but the LFP batteries brings with them so many good things that I think, okay, it weighs a little bit more than it could have done. But they seem to perform very well, and the car has decent amounts of power. You have a very good range, considering, and it's just still lighter than a lot of other cars out there, after all. I've forgotten to mention the tires we were on. We were on Michelin Pilot Sport. No, we're not. Summer tires. Sorry. We were on the Viking Continental 7s. and they're the same that I had on my blue Model 3. So they're not entirely new, but they've only been used one season. There's a whistling noise from somewhere. Sounds like a gasket around the window or something. Isn't entirely. Oh well, it is what it is. And they're working rather well, as they should do after all, on my new Sachs 18-inch tires, wheels. I mean, looking good. Yeah. So far, so good. Car still estimates the graph still estimates 259 kilometers of range on a running average of 172. Since we left the Circle K and got the coffee, we have had an average of around 200. It keeps on falling. So, and we've been driving 37 kilometers. So that gives us a range of around 300 kilometers still. Given that this is not a long range, this is a smaller battery pack. It weighs about the same actually because of the LFP battery and so on. So the weight difference in the old SR was around 200 or 150 kilos or thereabouts. The new one is almost the same. That's around 1800 and something, simply because of the LFP batteries weighs a bit more. So, well, still, I must say I do. I mean, unless if I were to buy a long range, that would be a price jump of around 100,000, around 80,000 NOK or 100,000 NOK, depending upon a little bit. I'm not entirely certain. They've thrown the prices around 100,000. That would give me more range, certainly. Now, the newest SR Pluses, or Model 3s as they're just called now, have a range of almost 500 kilometers from the base model. That is absurd. If that is with the same pack as this, or if it's a bigger battery pack, or whatever they've done, I don't know. They've opted constantly. But 500 kilometers from 480 or whatever it was, near enough, from the base model. That's just bonkers. Even though you will never see that in the real world, it still gives you, yeah, plenty. And with Tidal in the car, it just feels like the car got a new sound system. It didn't. It feels like it. And the best part is, it's entirely free. I did pay for the car, yes, and I do pay for my premium connectivity. Of course I do. But still, had this been any other manufacturer, it wouldn't have been free, or you would have paid an added premium on top of it. Trust me, BMW won't let you get away with anything as simple as this. Giving it to you for free is unheard of, after all. We're now on the motorway. Consumption is 181. Well, that's since we left the slightly icy out there. So speeds aren't as high as it normally is. We're cruising at 115 kilometers an hour. Running average on the energy graph is 167. Since we left home, we are at 176, which really isn't bad numbers though. Car estimates 243 kilometers left, roughly. The energy graph is moving target after all. But we've been so far going 59 kilometers, so we're still at 300 then, maybe even a bit more in the winter. So that means actually that this car does about the same now as it did in summer, which is surprising. starting to think now that there's something wrong. But that said, I drive a little bit faster in the summer and a little bit more, not more aggressive. But that's not true. But yeah, I don't know. Then well, the Michelin Pilot Sports aren't exactly known to be the most energy efficient tires in the world. They're very good sports tires, but they're not meant for range, to put it like that. We're now just past 70%, or 69%. We have been on the road for 40 minutes, roughly. Yeah, probably closer to an hour soon, totally. We've been driving 84 kilometers. We had, since we left home, a consumption of 170 watt hours. The energy graph reports 156 watt hours of the last 50 kilometers, which is slightly absurd. This car, I always said that it would help, particularly in the winter, with a heat pump, because I've had the Hyundai Ioniq, and also to a lesser degree the Kia, the old Kia Soul EV. Now, I don't have the consumption numbers of the Blue Duck in front of me. I'm sure I can pick them up. If you want to see the energy, the range test, the summer range test I did when I got this car, that's episode 160. I will leave a link below. I will also leave a link below of the winter range test of the Blue Duck, and you can have a look at that. I do notice one thing though: the battery still doesn't have very much regen. It has about 40% though, so it's not nothing. But that said, of course, if I had heated through everything before I went home, it probably would have been better, but I didn't. And because not everybody can do that all the time after all. But still, the car maintains speed. I don't have to do much braking, manual braking. I mean, most of it is done on the motor. On our way, we're now going on the motorway again, leaving the outskirts of Oslo and going down home. Running average is now 147. Since we left the gas station and got the coffee, we have 159 of consumption watt hours. I mean, I know the speed has been around 60, 70, 75 kilometers lately, kilometers an hour lately, but still, that's just absurdly low. Really, it is. So this car does deliver on efficiency. We have been driving 93 kilometers, and it says 235 kilometers left. Of course, that will go down a little bit, but still not bad for what is considered a base model. It's not a cheap car anymore, particularly not in America with all the price hikes. Have you ever heard that? I met I'd call her a colleague, but still today they have an old S, an old pre-AP2S. It had chassis number 21,399 or something. So yeah, that tells you just how low production numbers Tesla had for many years. It's done 270,000 kilometers and thereabouts, and it still just works. Not many issues. They have not had the car from new, but still have had it for a while now as a used car, and just shows how solid these things are after all. We're now at 50%. We have driven 141 kilometers since we left home. We have around another 50 kilometers or so 167 total, and the running average on the trip computer is 163. Still semi-dry roads now. A bit depending on which lane you're in, actually. It's not wet, it's just a little bit cold and damp, I guess you can call it. As you can see here. Here you have the dry section where your tires are. The other lane there's a little bit of moisture, not much, just a bit. We are back in Sarpsborg again, and we have driven 159, around 160 kilometers. So that's this length. We have 43%. We had an average since on the whole trip of 169 watt hours. A running average on the trip computer of around 170. It says 135 kilometers remaining. Give that a little bit of elasticity and you have 300 kilometers. That's on motorway. That's on the mixed driving. If it's been on the motorway, probably closer to 25. I think that's also the case if it's snow outside or colder, maybe. That said, I haven't noticed anything, any problems or interruptions of the heat in the car. It's been consistent, and I am comfortable. What else can I say? If you've been on the country roads like we started on, I think 320, maybe even a little bit more is realistic. But if we say somewhere between 250 and 300 kilometers of winter range on the base Model 3 with the heat pump and the 18-inch Continental VC7 tires. Well, that's not bad. I can't really complain on that. Yes, there are cars out there that can do more, and there's cars out there that can do blah blah blah. Depends on what you want. That's the fact for this car. And it's actually better than I expected. I didn't expect to see close to 300. I was hoping for it, but I didn't expect that to be the case. But there you go. It is. Maybe even more than 300 if you're careful and if you have other roads around you. But at least now you know around what you can expect. If you have other tires, bigger tires, you will have different results. But I don't think you're gonna really work pretty hard to get this car below 200 kilometers. I'm not gonna say it's impossible, but I'm saying it's very dang difficult. So there you have it. That's the winter range test of now what they just call the Model 3, the Model 3 standard model. Hope you liked it. Give it a thumbs up if you want, and leave a comment, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care out there. Bye bye.